or girls, welcome to Fantasy Football Harsh Reality. I am your host, Greg Romero Wilson, and I think this is the most harshest, although they keep saying, oh, the offenses are dominating, they're having these explosive seasons, and I will say this, I like the way the refs have become about clear and obvious. The foul has to be clear and obvious for them to call it. Because let's be honest, that if there is a silver lining to this season, that's it. Because if the last couple of seasons, these refs acted like this was about them, and they were stopping every play, and they were huddling up, and they were having these conferences and all this. And now it seems to be less. It has increased scoring. I think it's been beneficial all the way around, and I hope that it stays this way. And I think when we're talking about 2020, I mean, for this, obviously, this is the Week 7 recap. I'm sorry I'm so late with it. Obviously, it was, not obviously, I'll tell you what happened. I mean, my whole last week got thrown into turmoil. I didn't do a Week 7 preview because all of a sudden I had to go out of town on personal business. So now, and then I kind of had to isolate afterwards because I'm obviously have a very rational fear of COVID-19. And unfortunately, I had to get on a plane, and it was all just very nerve-wracking and exhausting, to be perfectly honest. I don't know if you've traveled during this time, but it's exhausting because it's so nerve-wracking. You're kind of on this edge the whole time, like, am I coughing? And that's the thing is I'm a habitual weed smoker, have been for 30 years, and consequently I have what we call cush cough, which is just the occasional, like I just clear my throat, and that is not cool these days. And being on a play, like, the woman next, although I will say this, thank you to Southwest Airlines for having those middle seats empty, or I should say JetBlue. I was on JetBlue. So I appreciate that, JetBlue. Thank you very much. But let's just go, we're going to go through some Fah-Qs first from Week 7. So anyways, I know this is late. I know I'm late in getting this out, but I did all the research, I made all the notes, and I'm like, you know what, fuck it, I know it's Wednesday already, all the waiver wires have gone through, everything's been done, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to put it out there because I did the research, I made the notes, and I got some points I want to make. So let's start with the Fah-Qs from Week 7. First of all, Fah-Q 2020 in general, because my poor Cowboys, is there any team having a more 2020 season than the Dallas Cowboys? Because I don't think so. I mean, you could argue the New England Patriots because they are in disarray after the loss of Tom Brady and not being able to have an offseason to bring in, they brought in Cam Newton, who then got COVID and now seems to be suffering from brain fog. I mean, he's definitely not all right. But to me, it's the Cowboys because much like 2020, it roared in with tremendous expectation. They put together all those old stars on the defense. I've been calling them the Expendables because they're just these old guys who were big names that they were hoping still had a few hits left in them. And that has gone horribly wrong. And then, of course, Dak Prescott, again, much like 27, roaring, big scoring points, putting the ball everywhere, and yet still losing games, and then getting completely wiped out for the year with a horrible compound fracture. And then, of course, it's been one disaster after the other after that. We bring in Dalton, and he gets just wiped out in an illegal hit by the Washington Redskins. And then we have to put in a guy named DiNucci. Hey, DiNucci's going in! There was like one neighborhood in Staten Island, New York that was going bonkers when DiNucci went in. And I just love the name. Like, get him, Nooch! But he was obviously... I mean, listen, there's a reason you third string. He came out of James Madison University or James Mason or who knows. Not even a Division I program. He's one of those guys that you're like, how did you get in the NFL? I mean, all those D1 quarterbacks and you're our third stringer? I don't know. The whole thing kind of, it makes me a little cuckoo. But that's on my first. Fah-Q 2020. That's an across-the-board Fah-Q. Also, Fah-Q to Kyle Shanahan. Keeping the tradition, the legacy of Shanahanigans alive. Shanahanigans alive. I want to know, and in daily fantasy, how do some guys know to play these mystery players? Like when Claypool showed up. Like there's some guys that see, I don't know if they have a crystal ball or if they have insider knowledge within the organization or whatever, but if you play Jeff Wilson, you're a smarter man than I, because everyone played Jerick McKinnon. Everybody played Jerick McKinnon. And Jerick McKinnon didn't play. And did they bother to tell us that they were going to rest? That was the thing. They come out on Monday. Oh, fuck you. You come out on Monday and go, oh, yeah, we had always planned to rest him week 7 because, we don't want to overuse him. Which, realistically, from a coaching perspective, it kind of makes sense because he has been a guy who's been injured repeatedly throughout his career. Since they signed him, this is the first season they've been able to get him on the field. This is the third season he's been with the team. But, again, they know that there's a nation of fantasy football players who could have used that information. And really, what difference would it have made to say that on Saturday to the defense? Would the defense have made that many changes knowing that it's going to be Jeff Wilson instead of Jerick McKinnon? Like, what a dick move. Fuck you, Kyle Shanahan. And they do this all season. Like, just when you think it's going to be this guy, it's that. I feel like obviously they're trying to play mind games with the defense, but what they're really doing is just mind fucking everybody in fantasy football. Fuck you, James Robinson, okay? I dropped him for Boston Scott, primarily because I do have, and hopefully it's this week, please be this week, I can really use you. I have Christian McCaffrey coming back off IR, and I figured to Boston Scott on that Thursday night game was going to have a big game, which he had a very good game. Luckily, he got that touchdown, 16.5 points. And James Robinson, 31 points on Sunday versus the Chargers, which is a very good defense. But let me tell you why I dropped him, because everyone's acting like he's been this dynamic player who's been dominating fantasy all season because he has second most points under Alvin Kamara. But, he had the big game in week 2 where he had 27 points, Week 1, he came out, he had like 11 points. Then week 3, versus Cincinnati, which should have been a plus matchup. Again, projection was 14, he gave you 12. The next week versus Houston was supposed to be a huge week. Easy defense, he was projected to have like 14, 15 points, he gave you 7. The week after that, Detroit, he was supposed to have a massive game, 14, 15 points, 16 points, he gave you 13. So he's been like decent, but relatively, underperforming projection. He's like a David Johnson, basically. So I dropped him from Boston Scott, and then he breaks out for 31 fucking points versus the Chargers. So versus Detroit, Houston, and Cincy, he just doesn't, which are games, those are 31-point games. Those are 31, doesn't do it. Then versus, of course, the Chargers, for some reason, which is a very decent defense, he hits 31 points. So, of course, fuck you, James Robinson, primarily because I dropped you, and now I can't get you back. And we have the FOB, the free agent acquisition bucks system in that league, and I knew the bids were going to be out of control. And if you went out and spent all of your FOB on you, he's on by this week, he's coming back next week, but again, listen, he is played down to the competition and up to the competition. So be forewarned, he's not going to be what you... So the guy paid $50. We get $200 for the year. He paid $50 for James Robinson this week. So he paid 25% of his entire annual FOB money on James Robinson. I don't know. For me, I spent 21 and got Michael Hasty, which we're going to talk about later in the waiver wire pickups, who I think Hasty's a star. I think he's like the next Dalvin Cook. I think he's going to be amazing. If you got him, congratulations. I tried to get him in both leagues. And it's funny the way the different sites, the different apps have him graded differently for this week. He's projected at about 8 points on Yahoo and 4 points on NFL.com, which just goes to show you we don't know what they're going to do with McKinnon. It could be all McKinnon, no Hasty. So... But McKinnon will get injured. Well, ostensibly everybody else has gotten injured. I don't know why McKinnon wouldn't get injured too. And I think he is going to be a star going down the back half of the season. We are officially in the back half of the season. We get 13 weeks of regular season. We're through week 7. 6, 7, that's the middle point. Now we are firmly in the back end. You got to make a run. And unfortunately, I've been bragging about, so I have one team that's dominating, tied for first, another team that's not doing as well, and it's struggling. But last week I was like, the Wilson wave, because Nobody's talking about Tom Brady. Tom Brady has had 2 5-touchdown games this year. He is starting to really heat up. He has Antonio Brown coming, and nobody talks about him. But he is starting to dominate. Huge 40-point game for me last week. I had the highest scoring points in the league. I was like, the Wilson wave. But then this week, everybody's injured. Godwin, my guy Godwin, who I have in the stack with him, he broke his finger catching a touchdown. Like, okay, if you're going to break a finger and go out of the game, I appreciate you scoring a touchdown on the way out, but I really could have used you going into this week. Let's get another Fah-Q out there for Leonard Fournette. I mean, are you in or are you out, man? Are you playing? I mean, he came in just in time to ruin the day, like just enough to, like, he doesn't have a great day and Ronald Jones doesn't have a great day. You know, he came out and he got 12 points and Rojo got 10 points. So there you go. So both of them are about what you're going to get on average out of James Robinson. Do not expect 31-point games all the time. And this thing is, we go out, and there's one guy every week, like Lockett, out of nowhere. If you didn't have Lockett in daily fantasy, you did not win this week. But Lockett is not, look, he had 57.5 points this week. Week before, 6.4. Week before that, 4.9. Week before that, 36.5. He's the James Robinson of receivers. So, let's see. Versus DK Metcalf. And it's so funny. It's like, it's almost like Russell Wilson felt bad that he had been paying so much attention to DK Metcalf. Like a king with his wives. Like, I'm sorry, I've been sleeping with my new wife so much lately. You know what? I'm making it all up to you in one night. We're doing it 3 times in a row. That's what it's like. Because DK has been 20 points, 14 points, 24 points, and then 3.3. Five targets, 2 receptions. So he was definitely trying to make it up to his first wife over there with Tyler Lockett. Jamal Williams, he delivered. He was a guy that I went and managed to grab the second the news came out. Now, they say it is just a calf strain. They fully expect Aaron Jones to come back. So I dropped Jamal Williams, but he did deliver 19 points on a projected 14. So that was pretty awesome. Gio Bernard also, which it looks like he's actually going to get to keep the job a little bit longer. Although Mixon is listed as questionable for this week too, but he delivered 18 points. So as I posted on Instagram and on Twitter, we were having the battle of the backup stars, and Jamal Williams won by a point. Both Burrow and Baker okay, so let's get into the good. We're in the good now. Let's go to the good, the bad, and the ugly. A.J. Brown, listen, this guy has emerged. He's absolutely emerged. If you're not believing in him, you got to believe in him. 31 points. He seems to be putting up every single week. This guy, I mean, he's a breakout star that nobody's really talking about. Tyler Lockett was good, obviously. Boston Scott, we went over that. Both Burrow and Baker, which Burrow we've all been counting on. Burrow, he is consistently throwing for at least 300 yards and running for 20, 30, 40. So this is what you want in a modern QB. You want 300 yards passing and some running. That's what you want. And that's the problem with the old guard. Because the old guard would give you the 300 yards passing, but no running. And you want, let me tell you something. This is why Brady is the greatest of all time. Because of those 5 touchdowns, one of them was a rushing touchdown. Granted, it was a goal line rushing touchdown, but he's still not afraid to stick his nose in there and get that TD. But let's look at the points. Burrow, 43 points. Baker, 35. And look at Burrow's previous 3 weeks. 20 points, 4 points versus Baltimore, and 19 points. Baker, 35 the week before, 2 points versus Pitt, but before that, 17-17. So really, with Burrow, I think you're looking at right around the low 20s as his average. And, for Baker, it's upper teens. 17 to 19 points is about what you're going to expect. But that was a shootout, and they did great. And now, of course, OBJ, and that was one of the things that saved my bacon in the league where I'm tied for first. It saved my bacon because I went ahead and played CeeDee Lamb because I was expecting an improvement, a step up from the Red Rifle. I expected Dalton, to be able to go out there and complete and get better, improve from the week before, hit more of his targets. And it started out that way. He was even using his legs. He was even running around. He ran around, got a first down. I was like, this is it. He's warming up. He's getting better. And then whammo! And they were talking this week about the way that none of the Dallas Cowboys offensive linemen, nobody came to his defense. And I think that is telling about the team energy with the loss of Dak and this, whatever divisions might be going on. You know, what we hear versus reality, I think are two different things most of the time. But what we're seeing on the field is a team that isn't a team. They're not defending each other. They're not backing each other. They're not fighting for each other. And I think that was fully evidenced in the way that nobody came. They all just kind of stood around and looked at him like, fuck, here we go again. It's tough to be a Cowboys fan, man. It really is. Justin Herbert, listen, I've been singing his praises since week 2. I said he was the truth. One of my great regrets was dropping him. And again, I only dropped him because Anthony Lynn, that jackass, went out there and is like, don't worry, no, this is Tyrod Taylor's team. As soon as he's ready to go, we're giving it back to him. So I dropped him. I was like, well, I need a quarterback that's going to start. And then 2 weeks later, they're like, yeah, we got to keep Herbert. But luckily, Tom Brady has emerged, and I think and we're in the week 8 preview that I'm going to do tomorrow. He's playing the Giants. And the problem with that is the defense is going to do so well. It's going to be like Mahomes this last week in week 7 versus Denver. The defense did so much work, he didn't have to throw the ball. And so you got I think he had 17 points this last week, which, he just didn't have to do anything, that's great if you're a fan of the team. It's not great if you're, 13 points. 13. Was he bad? No. He only threw the ball 23 times, 15 completions, 200 yards, and a touchdown. He just didn't have to do that much. So my fear is that that's what's going to happen with Brady this coming week, but we'll get back to that later. But Justin Herbert, he's the truth. 46 points, 34 passes, 30 completions. Oh, no, so these are his point totals last few weeks. 46 points, and week before that, 34, 30, 18, 26. So, this guy, consistency, money, he's just, if he can stay healthy, unless somebody hurts him, which, we have to be honest, anybody can get knocked out for the season at any time from any position. So, like I said, every player is questionable going forward. Kyler Murray, he's been doing it. He was one of those guys I wanted. Him versus Russ. Kyler put up 44 points. Russ put up 38. Gronk. Now, this is somebody that I was like, I knew he would come around, but I couldn't wait for it. And I'm one of those people that says, when you have a big name, you keep him. You hold on to him because you never know when they're going to turn it around. And that's what happened with Gronk. The problem I had was I had Jared Cook and Gronk. Jared got injured. Gronk wasn't there yet. I had to get somebody to play, and I didn't want to lose Jared because he was the only one producing at the time. So I had to drop Gronk for Jimmy Graham, who has great matchups down the stretch, and he should be fine. But Gronk is now becoming Gronk. Drew Brees, 25 points with no receivers. You got to respect that. He's in the good. Keenan Allen, 19.5 points. Again, he was someone that the second Herbert took over, I was like, listen, play Keenan Allen. This kid can get the ball to Keenan Allen. So until he gets hurt, keep playing him. One of the guys in my league, highest scoring points so far this year, it's the guy I'm playing now this week. I'm so glad I'm playing him this week and not last week. Because on one team, if he played his own team straight up in daily fantasy, he would have won everything. He had Kyler, Lockett, and Devontae Adams. And he was playing against the Hogs, which is another team I've talked about him before because he's the one having that season, which in my comedians league, James Fry is the guy having that season, which is when you score the second highest points in the league every single week, and every week you're playing against the guy that scores the highest points in the league. The week before, I had the highest points versus the Hogs, beat him. This week, I had the highest points, or this guy, the Paddington Bears, had the highest scoring points, 200, and Hogs had 164, which would have beaten everybody by far in the rest of the league. And again, he loses. And same with James Fry. He was facing me in our comedians league. He had 132 points, would have beaten everybody. I had 150. So, it's just those two guys. There's always one guy, and I've had that season, and you've had that season too. You know you have, and it is the worst because you're scoring points. You look at the point totals, and if you had the wins, you would be up there. Oh, it's confounding. Deontay Johnson. I had talked about, I was wondering how the return of Deontay Johnson would affect the value of Claypool. Deontay Johnson comes back, he gets 24 points, Claypool got like 4. So, or not even. Let's look at what Claypool actually got. So, and then a guy suddenly emerging, finally, DJ Moore. Again, one of those guys, very slow to start, but you hold on to these guys because he's a name guy, he's a talent guy that you know at any point could turn it around. He turned it around. He had 25 points this week, and look, before that he had 12, week before that he had 19. So you're starting to see some progression there for sure. Let's look at Claypool last week really quickly. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I gave him 3.7 points worth. He got 0.3. Now, that being said, Deontay Johnson, once again, questionable for this week. So if he goes down, obviously you're going to be able to put Claypool back with confidence. But I was wondering, I was just wondering. I wasn't saying that it was definitely going to mean Claypool was out. I was wondering what the return of Deontay Johnson would mean for him, and we found out what it means. It means he's basically irrelevant. So whether that holds week in, week out, I doubt it. He's still going to come in there on 3 receiver sets. He's still going to catch some touchdowns here and there. But a lot of it, his success is dependent on whether or not Deontay Johnson plays. Now, that was the good. Let's look at the bad. Anyone not named Amari Cooper on the Dallas team. And even then, Amari, I mean, he's just getting volume, but which is fine. No touch. I mean, it's a disaster over there. Even Zeke, 5.6. He seems unmotivated, disinterested. I feel like the loss of Dak really stole the soul of the Cowboys team. Like, they have not recovered yet. Like, they're still dazed from the loss of their great leader. I mean, think about it. You have your general, your rock, the guy who was emotionally there, who could score big plays, who could lead you to a win in the fourth quarter, and he's gone. And he's not coming back. It's not this season. Like, he's gone, and I think it just really ripped the spirit out of this team. And hopefully, this week, Dalton plays, and they get that spirit back and find it because they're up against the hated Eagles. Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry is so fetch. Let's just stop trying to make Hunter Henry work. Let's stop trying to make Hunter Henry happen. He's not happening. Hunter Henry, not happening. Just drop him. Or play, I mean, you have to have somebody, you got to play somebody, but clearly Herbert has zero interest in getting the ball to Hunter Henry. DK Metcalf, very bad game. Just a bad game. You don't want to, you started with confidence still. Mike Davis, I mean, listen, he finally had a bad game. 6 points, 5 receptions, 12 rush yards. Which, this is great for CMC owners, because, just 2 weeks ago, Davis was having these great games, and everyone was like, well, if CMC comes back, I mean, you got to keep running Davis, too. He's doing so amazing. But now, it's like, to the bench, CMC, you're back. Josh Allen, listen, I mean, he started off white hot, and then now 19 points on a projected 24 points. And this is versus the Jets. I played him in DFS in many contests because I was like, this is the bounce back game versus the Jets. Fuck these guys. And he went out 19 points, 17 the week before, 18 the week before. It's become a pattern. And I feel like he's in his head. I don't know what happened. Travis Kelce, 4.6. This is just, again, you're not going to give up on the guy, but he had a bad game. And you can't really blame him because it was a game where you didn't need him to do much. And Mike Evans, 5 points. Mike Evans been on a real dip. Let's look at Mike Evans' numbers. He's but now, Godwin's gone. And so Evans, hopefully you didn't lose him. But Mike Evans, he should have a bounce back game this coming week. But yeah, 4.7 points for Evans. 1.5 the week before. So that's bad. But before that, it was 12, 24, 13, 22. So his trending was great. Obviously, the more mouths there are to feed, and we saw this in Dallas. Anytime you have 3 great receivers, someone's going to be the odd man out week to week. Mike Evans, and it may be that they were kind of decoying him, protecting him, because he was gimpy, because he was carrying the load while Godwin was out, while Scotty Miller was so banged up. But now him and Scotty, but Scotty Miller, when he's supposed to have a big game, he doesn't. And then when he shouldn't, he does. So good luck with that one. I know everybody picked him up. But Mike Evans, he was in the bad. Now let's talk about the ugly. We've had the good, the bad, and the ugly. The ugly, OBJ, his knee, which again, for me, because I played CeeDee Lamb, who turned up 0.1 points, OBJ put up 0, so that evened out in my game, allowing me to win that match versus the Meshinators, who he's one of my best friends, and he has this knack for he's known in our league as the great antagonizer. He puts together these great videos, of him dumping all over you, all this great grab. He's so great at that stuff, but he only does it when he wins, and I beat him. And as an actor who's done a ton of television work, there's lots of clips of me out there. So he apparently had collected these clips and was going to have this great montage, but he did not get to put it together. So he will have to save that for the playoffs. McKinnon, again, everybody played him. Think about this. We played him with confidence. McKinnon, lock and load. And then that motherfucker didn't even take the field. Negative 0.1 points versus a 14-point projection. Fah-Q, Kyle Shanahan. And your father, your dad started it. It's really a fuck you, Mike Shanahan. Edelman, 1.8. Cam, negative 0.18. And listen, a lot of guys have dropped Edelman. You go grab Edelman if he fell onto the wire for you, because the fact of the matter is he's going to, when Jarrett Stidham takes over, Edelman's going to go back up. I mean, again, he's a big name. You don't drop big names. You leave him on the bench. They're going to turn around. Cam could turn around. Maybe the brain fog goes away this week and he's able to bring it back. But we'll see. Chris Carson, 4.6. He's week to week now with a foot sprain. He's one of the reasons I went ahead and picked up Carlos Hyde, because if a foot sprain, that you need your feet. Feet problems for wide receivers and running backs. The ability to cut, to plant and cut. That's the game. And you can't do that. You're not any good at your game. And, of course, Drake was back to Count Dracula because he sucks. And I know he went out injured. And it sucks because he is fetch. He's officially fetch. Let's quit trying to make Drake happen, because even before he got injured, he was sucking. And then Chase Edmonds came out and looked great. It's Chase Edmonds' game. Unless he gets hurt, Chase Edmonds has the backfield in Arizona till the end of the season. Even when Drake is healthy, they're going to bring him back in on a couple of plays, but it's going to be to spell Chase Edmonds. Chase Edmonds, it's now your team. Congratulations if you managed to pick him up off the wire. If he was still available on the wire in your league, then your league is trash. So the big waiver wire picks up. For me, the number one is Jermichael Hasty. As I said, I think this kid is a star about to happen. He's about to fucking all over the place. The more he touches the ball, the more excited he's going to get. He's going to make everybody else irrelevant, even though they're still going to use them in San Francisco because, again, Kyle Shanahan just can't help himself. But I think Hasty, down the stretch, maybe not this week. This week, if you have to play him, play him. If you don't, because we don't know what the split's going to be with McKinnon because they, rested him for a week. But the more this guy touches the ball, the more you're going to see that this guy is a star. Chase Edmonds, I already said what I said. Carlos Hyde, you got to pick him up because, again, Chris Carson, that foot injury, that's going to linger. On the wide receiver side, obviously Brandon Ayuk. I love Rashard Higgins if he's still available because OBJ is out. And Jarvis Landry, he's already said he's got a broken rib. He's had hip surgery. He's got a little ankle issue. Rashard Higgins is going to be the most reliable guy that they got. He's been explosive. He's got the chemistry going. Rashard Higgins for me was a great pickup this week. Brandon Ayuk was one. So there's a couple of guys that are really starting to fit in. But obviously, people went out and picked up Tre'Quan Smith thinking he was going to have a big game, and he didn't do it. Somehow, I don't know who he was throwing to, but he threw to everybody but Tre'Quan Smith. Drew Brees did last week, so a lot of people dropped him too. So that's it. Listen, I'll be doing the Week 8 preview show coming up. And if you're in California, please vote yes on Proposition 23 requiring a doctor in dialysis clinics. My father, unfortunately, was killed in an accident by the technician making a mistake at a dialysis clinic. It's oversight that's long overdue. So please vote yes on Prop 23. My name is Greg Romero Wilson. Follow the podcast, Fantasy Football, Harsh Reality, And also, if you're into the afterlife and ghosts and demon possession, stuff like that, please check out the documentary I did about my sister Sarah Wilson on YouTube. It's called The Girl Who Died 3 Times. And it's on my YouTube channel at The Greg Wilson. And it actually has its own YouTube channel as well. I just released part 3, which is a mind-blowing conclusion to the documentary. You're gonna love it. And if you can, please contribute to her GoFundMe. The links are in all the comments of all the videos for The Girl Who Died 3 Times. She does need a kidney transplant, so we're raising money for all the travel expenses that are gonna be involved with that surgery. Thank you very much for listening to the show. For the few of you that bother to listen, because it's way late, I'll do better the rest of the season, I promise. Thank you very much. I'm Greg Romero Wilson. This is Fantasy Football Harsh Reality.